Hello, this is Councilmember Mike Diaz, and you're watching This Week at City Hall. This is my video series on all the significant actions that occur at City Hall or at City Council meetings, and this is for the council meeting for March 12th, 2019. For more information, you can always go to my webpage at cbd4.org and click on the voting tab, and it'll give you all the information on all the items that we voted on. Well, this week we had 7 items that we dealt with at City Council, and items 1 through 6 were on the consent calendar. As you remember, consent means that we can just vote on all those items with just one single vote without discussing it. So let's move on. Before we move on, you'll probably note that in all of my other YouTube videos, I've never really talked about item 1. We always skip that one. Well, the reason I skip item 1 is because that is just to approve the minutes of a previous council meetings or council meetings, and so I never really talk about those. It's not a big deal. Okay. Anyways, so let's move on. So Councilmember Gavez pulled item number 2 from consent, so that meant that we would hear that after we voted on the consent items. So I'll go over item number 2 after I go over the consent items. So let's talk about items 2 through 7, or 2 through 6 anyways. So item 3 was to approve an accessibility study for Maxfield and Loma Verde Park. Some of us know that as Rinster Park. And the things we're going to talk about in that feasibility study are the stairway that leads from the Loma Verde Rec Center to the ball fields and ADA access. As some of you will recall, there used to be a stairway on the east side of Loma Verde Rec Center that led down to the ball fields. Well, that stairway was destroyed by some flooding, and it hasn't really been used in many years. As a matter of fact, when I was elected to office, that was one of the first things I started to look at, and now we're starting to do a study to figure out how we're going to address that stairway that's missing. And so that's part of that feasibility study, is to look at that stairway and how we deal with it. But the study is also going to look at ADA access. As some of you that have gone to that field will know, the baseball fields anyways, at Maxfield, is that there's very little access from the Maxfield side all the way to Orange to get to those. I think there's 6 or 7 ball fields there. There's not really much access for folks that require access in that area. So we're going to look at that and determine how to best address accessibility. One more thing on that item. The other thing too we're going to look at is the parking at Maxfield. It seems that the parking lot could be restructured. I'm trying to move my notes around here a little bit, and so we may look at the parking and figure out how to reconfigure that and make it work a little bit better, so people can, not only can we get more parking, but also allow better accessibility to the fields. So that was item number 3. Let's move on to item number 4. So item 4 was for the City Council to accept $41,455 from the Bureau of Justice for purchasing bulletproof vests. So I believe the city has received these grants since about 1998, and basically it means that if that we are required to pay 50% of the vest, and the other 50% will come through this grant. And so really, it's free money. It's a no-brainer. The City Council certainly I would approve this, and I'm sure they approve it every single year. Item 5. This was a short council meeting, and a lot of these items we're going to get down here in just a couple of minutes. So item 5 was to accept $222,000 from the Department of Homeland Security. And when we approve this, staff was also asking us to approve appropriating about $70,000 of this money to the police grants section for Operation Stone Garden. And so let's talk about Stone Garden. So Operation Stone Garden was created after 9/11 to intercept terrorists and weapons entering the United States through the border. And so this is a regional operation which involves many different agencies, and the list is kind of long. It includes U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Immigration and Border Protection, San Diego County Sheriffs, California Department of Motor Vehicles, California Fish and Game, California Highway Patrol, San Diego County Probation Department, and San Diego Harbor Patrol. And so this item is to accept the $222,000. Item number six was to approve a contract or amendment with Hartford Insurance. And so basically what this was is the city provides its employees some benefits, and one of those is a short-term and long-term disability. And so every year the city goes out and to make sure that we get the best price for that insurance. And so we sent out an RFP, request for proposal, for many vendors, and they did it this year. And they came back and said that Hartford was the best company to provide that. And so what they're asking for us to do is to amend a contract with Hartford. So last year, I believe, who provided that last year? It was United Healthcare provided that coverage last year, but they weren't the lowest bidder this year. But Hartford did provide us with accidental death and dismemberment insurance for our employees. So now this year they're saying, okay, let's just amend the contract with Hartford to also include the short-term and long-term disability insurance. So that was the end of the consent items 2 through 6, and the City Council voted unanimously to approve all of those items. So let's talk about item number 2. This was the item that was pulled by Councilmember Galvez, and basically this was a contract to increase the contract for Project Professionals Corporation from $2 million to $4 million. And basically the city went out when we got Measure P passed to provide permitting processes for our engineering department to process a lot of these projects, or to administer a lot of these projects that Measure P was going to fund. And now we also have SB1, which is going to increase the amount of projects. And our staff, there's no way that they can process that. So I just want to remind folks that Measure P is getting us about $18 million a year for additional projects, CIP projects. And with SB1, again, we're getting, I forget what the amount was this year. I think it was like $8 million we'll expect to see. So it's just a ton of more capital improvement projects. Our staff just isn't ready or can handle that much. So we decided to hire an outside firm to do that. So why didn't we just hire people? Because some of this money, like Measure P, is really short-term money. And so the idea was not to really hire those. Now that SB1, though, is a long-term money, we may look at hiring for portions of the monies we get from SB1. So basically, Councilmember Galvez pulled it so she could have some questions answered by staff in the public setting. And once in a while, council members will do that. I know I've done that, where I look at something and I go, I'm not sure if the public read this, that they would get what this means, because I certainly didn't in some of these issues. And so I'll pull those and just have staff explain it so the public can look at it and go, okay, I see what they're talking about. So in this instance, Galvez pulled it so that staff could discuss it in an open meeting. And again, this item was approved unanimously by the City Council. Okay, so let's move on to item 7, which was the last item on our agenda this week. And that was basically an update by our sustainability department on our climate action plan. So interesting enough, the city of Chula Vista, we are, I think, one of the first cities in the county to adopt a climate action plan. And this is just basically an update. The update was significantly long and very, very comprehensive. Staff did an awesome report on the plan. And there's no way I'm going to go through the entire update, but in short, the report showed that the city was well below the 20% reduction, or the goal of reduction of greenhouse gas generation. And in fact, we reduced our emissions by 55% since 1990. So we've done very, very well. Naturally, that's the city. That's how much the city, the local government, City of Chula Vista, produced and reduced since 1990. On the other hand, we look at we also were shown what was happening on the residential and commercial side. We do have some work to do on that, but we will get there, and staff is working on methods to do that. And it is also discussed in our climate action plan. And that's all we have. The City Council didn't have to vote on that update. It was just an update for the City Council. There was no vote on that. Now, before I finish, I want to let you know that on March 22nd, MAC will be heading up a cleanup at Harborside Park. And that's that park right behind Costco on Broadway. And that cleanup will begin at 10 a.m. and it will finish about 2 p.m. I hope to see you there so we can get involved to help start cleaning up our community. So that is all I have for the March 12th version of This Week at City Hall. I encourage you to sign up for my YouTube channel. If you have any questions, you can always contact my office at 619-409-3822, or you can email me at mdiaz@chulavistaca.gov. My webpage is cvd4.org, and my Facebook page is Councilmember Mike Diaz. Goodbye, and God bless.